guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with my favorite video to film of the month. It's gonna be my Pan Those Eyeshadows update, and I'm excited to share with you my progress as always. But before I jump into that, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. But let's jump into the first eyeshadow. So as you know, if you've been watching this project for any kind of time, I always thought the eyeshadow that's been in here the longest, and I only have one eyeshadow that's been in here more than 1 month because the remaining 4 were all rolled in last update, and this one has actually been in 3 months now, and that is a shade from my Star Wars Mandalorian palette, and it's the Child palette, and the shade that I had was the Baby Face, which was this beautiful mint shade up here. This eyeshadow I have used an additional 5 times in the past month, and this right here is where I am today. So as you can see there, I was actually able to hit pan on it. It did take me 3 months, but I finally hit pan on it, which I'm excited about. And in total it took me 20 uses to hit that goal. This was a beautiful shade and I did enjoy it, but I was quite tired of wearing green looks. But I really enjoyed wearing this kind of as a mint focused eyeshadow in spring, and then when we got to summer I used this a lot as a transition shade for other eyeshadow looks. So when I did like kind of bluey looks or greeny looks, kind of more smoky looks, I used this as a blending out shade, and it was beautiful that way. And I think have possibly one look to show you at the end where I used it like that, but it was, like I said, a beautiful shade. And another way that I used it this past month more on like an everyday basis was on my lower lash line, but it wasn't my favorite to use that way because I don't really like pop of blues or green on my lower lash line that much. I think it looks beautiful on other people, but just not on me. But at least I did use it enough to pan on it, and I am happy to roll it out because it means I can finally roll in something new in its place. And also I already have 2 pans in this palette. Both of these here were rolled in through this project, and I only got this palette. It was technically a Christmas present, but with Colourpop delivering to Europe it came really late, so I got this in January because it was kind of like a late Christmas present almost. So yeah, it came in January, but I was excited to get it anyway. I'm excited to already have 2 pans in it, although I only owned it for 6 months so far. I think the next shade I'm going to talk about is the one that comes from my Focus palette, because if you don't know, this year I'm doing kind of a Focus shade in my rotation, and that always comes from either my Naked 1 or my Naked 3 palette, because those 2 are some of my oldest palettes in my collection. And this past month I have been working on the shade Smog, and it looked like this when I first rolled it in. So I did have like a little bit of disturbance, but not really much usage or any dip or anything in it at all. But in the past month I have used this 16 times, so quite a lot, and this right here is where I am today. So you can definitely see that there is a dip starting to form, but I do not have pan yet, unfortunately. So this will be another one that stays in, but I'm pretty sure that I will be able to hit pan on it next month, because as you can see that it's already like a significant dip. Although if you compare it to like the other pans, I still had quite a bit to go, but I did use it 16 times because it wasn't a shade that was it was quite easy to incorporate into looks. It is more of a cool tone bronze, and it's a little bit deeper, but how I used it a lot was kind of on my outer corner, and I definitely have some looks with that. And I also did pair this quite a lot with one of the other shades that I'm going to talk about later, so it was nice to have in my rotation. And I think this will be another one that I can focus on the next month because it is such a neutral shade and I can wear this to work easily. So probably counting on pan on this for next update, but unfortunately I don't have that yet. And the shade that I really enjoyed wearing together with Smog is the shade from my Saharan 2 palette by Juvia's Place, and the shade I had in here was the shade Hadia. And this right here is where this shade was when I introduced it, and it was basically brand new. I don't even think I've used this shade at all before, because I think I've reached into this palette maybe once or twice before, but I'm not sure I reached into that specific shade. But I am happy to report that I actually did hit pan on this eyeshadow. It looks like that now, and it took me 11 uses to hit that pan. And that might sound like a low number to you guys, but I always say that the Juvia's Place palettes, like, they're not too deep, at least not in my opinion, if I compare them to like Colourpop eyeshadows and things like that. But yeah, it was a beautiful shade, and I did use this a lot. And when I did use this, I used it all over my lid mainly. Sometimes, like I said, I paired it with Smog, again kind of on my outer corner, or even like I used Smog kind of on the kind of outer half of my lid, and then I kind of topped Hadia kind of on the inner half, so they kind of overlapped in the middle, and that was beautiful as well. So yeah, I use this a lot and I really enjoy this shade, and I'm so happy to have Pan on this palette now, and I'm hoping you can see too that I have some usage in some other shades, and that's something that I'm really excited about, because this was basically an unused palette in my collection, although I had it for a little while now. So I'm happy that I rolled that shade in and I got to play with this palette, and I'm definitely going to reach for this more in the kind of upcoming months, because I do really like this palette now. The next shade is another one that comes from a Juvia's Place palette, and that is a shade from my Magic Mini palette. This is a very well loved palette in my collection, and also in this project. I've had a lot of eyeshadows from this palette in this project before, but the shade that I have in this time is Aisha, I think. Aisha? I think someone corrected me last time, but I think it was probably Aisha? Something like that, and it's just AJA, and this right here is where I was when I introduced it. This was definitely untouched when I introduced it. It's not the type of shade that I've reached for much on my own if I just reach for a palette, but I have reached for this 8 times in the past month, and this right here is where I am today. So I do have a little bit of a dip. I'm hoping you can pick it up on camera because it's so difficult with these kind of deep shades, but I'm hoping you can see it there. So I do have a little bit of a dip, but I'm definitely quite far away from Pan. And the way that I've mainly been using this eyeshadow is as a eyeliner. I did do one look where I used this all over my lid, and I did actually blend it out with the shade from my Baby Yoda palette, my Dijon palette, and I think that might have been the time that I actually pan on that shade Babyface, but I think I have a look for that at the end of the video. But yeah, that's kind of one of the looks where I use this all over my lid, but otherwise I mainly exclusively use this as an eyeliner, and it's not my favorite eyeliner, but it's been working. And yeah, it's not my favorite shade, and I would probably veto this out, to be honest, if it wasn't in my Magic Mini palette, because like I said, because I do kind of have a semi-unofficial goal that I want to hit pan on every single shade in this palette, because as you can see there's already a lot of pan showing, so I do eventually have to hit pan on Asia. So yeah, I'm just going to continue working on it, and I'm hoping that I will have pan on this by next update, because again, these pans are not very deep, and usually it only takes me about like 10 uses, maybe 10-15 uses to pan on these. So yeah, we'll see, but since I use so little of it every time, it might take me a bit longer, but I'm gonna push through and hopefully be able to roll this out next month. So the final shade that I have is one that comes from my beloved Club Nebula palette by Kaleidos in collaboration with Angelica Nyqvist. This shade I rolled in is the shade Nebula, and it is this kind of beautiful shifty kind of shade that goes from like an orange to a pink, and I really like this shade. And yeah, it was completely, I think maybe I used it once before rolling into this project, but no more than that. And this right here is where I am right now. So you can see that I did actually pan on this shade, and it took me 8 uses to hit pan on this, so not too much, but I think that is because I'm hoping you can see that these pans aren't too deep. And also with this shade, it's more of a, I'll show you. I just realized I haven't been swatching. I have to swatch everything soon, but I hope you can see that it's a beautiful shade, and I don't know if you can catch the shift on there, but it's more of a kind of topper shade almost. So when I used this, I had to build it up quite a bit to get the intensity that I wanted, and that's probably also why it only took me 8 uses. But I think if you use this on top of another shade or as a topper, you definitely wouldn't have to use as much as I did. But when I used this, I mainly used it kind of on its own or as the only shimmer shade on my lid, so that's why I used a little bit more of it. But 8 uses and I did hit pan on it. So that is the last shade that I have to talk about, so I'm just going to go ahead and swatch everything out, because I completely forgot, as I do a lot, to swatch these out. And yeah, I will be right back. Okay, so I swatched everything out, and here are the 3 shades that are rolling out. So we have the Babyface shade from the Child palette, we have Hadia from the Saharan 2 palette, and then we have the Nebula shade from the Kaleidos Club Nebula palette. So I'm hoping you can see that what I mean by it being a bit more sheer and not having much of a base, and that's kind of why I had to build it up a bit more. But yeah, it was a beautiful shade anyway, and I do have quite a few looks to share with you, I think, with, or actually I don't know how many, but I do have a couple looks where I use this in my photos then, so we'll discuss that then. But yeah, let's just talk about what's left. So these are the 2 shades that are left, and they're very deep, so I'm hoping I'm gonna get some more light shades, because yeah, they are rather deep. Let's just go ahead and randomize three new shades to roll in, and since I already have a focus shade in, all three of them are going to be completely randomized. So I'm just going to pull out my laptop and we will go ahead and pick new shades. So I have my randomizer right here, and I currently have 671 eyeshadows in my collection. So I'm going to go ahead and randomize the first number, which is going to be 663, and that will definitely be a single eyeshadow. Okay, so 663 is one of my Burberry eyeshadows in the shade Pale Barley. Okay, so that's going to be interesting, but that's going to be the first shade. The second shade is going to be number 367. Okay, this is very exciting. So this is actually from one of my newest palettes in my collection, and this one comes from my Huda Mercury Retrograde palette, and it is the shade Momentum, which I have no idea what shade that is because, like I said, it's very new to me and I haven't really gotten a hang of which shade is which yet. But I'm so excited to be able to play with that palette a bit more because, to be honest, I haven't even used it yet. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. The last shade that I'm rolling in is going to be number 250. Okay, so 250 comes from my Juvia's Place the Tri palette, and the shade is Curla, which I believe is one of the orangey shades, but I'm excited about that one. So I'm gonna go and pull out my three eyeshadows and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back and I have my three eyeshadows right here. I was actually thinking about it when I pulled them out. I haven't looked at the shades yet, so I don't know what I have from the two palettes, but this here is the single from Burberry, and I kind of know what this one looks like already, and I know that this one isn't the most exciting shade. You can see it right there. Let me just go ahead and swatch it on my wrist. As you can see the swatch of it. It is swatched right there. Well, that was an awful swatch, but you can see it. I just feel like it's more of a satiny shade, and I mean, I could easily get use out of this because it's a neutral shade. It's something that I can incorporate in everyday looks, but it's not very exciting. And also, I've been thinking about maybe decluttering my Burberry eyeshadows. I have two of them because they're just not my makeup style anymore. So I think I'm gonna actually veto this out, which will be my second veto this year. And I did say I'm allowing myself 5 vetoes this year, and I'm just vetoing this out because it's not exciting to me, and I just feel like I won't enjoy reaching for this. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and re-roll for this eyeshadow, and hopefully I will get something more exciting than this. And then once I have that re-rolled, I'm gonna look at all of three of the shades. Okay, so let's go ahead and randomize one more number then, which is gonna be 409. So 409 comes from my Nikkie Tutorials and Beauty Play palette in the shade Plot Twist, which I believe is the greeny bluish shade. But let's just go and get that palette and I will show you all three of the eyeshadows. Okay, so I'm gonna go through all the eyeshadows. Let's just start with this one because I just have it from going and getting it. So the shade I got in here is Plot Twist, which, like I said, I think is the greenish blue shade. Okay, it's actually not. That shade is called I can never say that. Okay, so Plot Twist is actually this light blue shade right here. So this is baby blue shade, and I mean, it's definitely more exciting than that Pale Barley shade, but yeah, we'll see how easy this is to incorporate into shades. I actually have a tiny bit of a dip in this already, and that is what it looks like on my finger, but I'm just going to go ahead and swatch this out as well. So there you have Plot Twist, and it's a very, very pale blue. I think this could be nice to blend out other shades with. It might even be nice as an inner corner highlight, like a matte inner corner highlight, especially if I do get a tan. So I think that could be quite fun to work on, and I know that the Beauty Bay palettes aren't too deep in the pan, so hopefully it won't take too long to pan on this. And yeah, I think it's going to be maybe not the easiest shade to work on, but it's still going to be fun. And I did wish for some lighter shades when I did have these two, and I definitely got my wish there. But that is going to be the first shade that is rolling in. So then we have the other two palettes. Let's just start with the Tri palette because I think I know what shade this is already. The shade I rolled in is the shade Curla, which I believe is the one in the middle on the bottom, and that is, yes, exactly the shade I thought it was, which was the shimmery orange. So it's that one right here. I honestly don't think I've even used that shade, so it's definitely going to take a little bit to pan on it, but that is what it looks like on my finger, and it looks beautiful. It's more of a kind of slightly deeper, like burnt orange, and I think this will be a beautiful shade to reach for this time of year. And I think, yeah, it will work quite nicely, I think, with the smog shade as well. So yeah, I am excited to work on that, and that is going to be the fourth shade. Then we have the final palette, which is my Mercury Retrograde palette, and I just picked this up last month. Or actually no, I mean, it's technically July now, so I guess in May, but I've had it for about a month now. And this one is a beautiful palette. I'm going to try to open it. It's kind of hard to open actually. And the shade I got is, I believe it's Momentum, which again, I have no idea what shade that is. I'm just going to peek, see what it is. Okay, that's an easy shade to pan on. So that is this shade right here, which is, it looks like a nude shade in like a setting shade in the palette, but I have a feeling there's going to be more of a transition shade, but I'm going to swatch it out and see. Okay, that is what it looks like. I'm just going to swatch it again on my wrist. Okay, I have a little bit of a dilemma now, because it is more of a setting shade. It's not a transition shade really. You can see it there on my finger better than on my wrist. And the thing is, I'm trying to pan two of those in my Panda palettes, and I think adding this in will just be counterproductive. So because I really wanted to work on this palette, I mean, you can tell how excited I was to roll this in, but I think I'm actually going to maybe use another one of my vetoes, which will be 2 in this one video, but it's only my 3rd out of 5. And it's simply because I want to focus on those 2 to finish both of them up, because I'm working on the Naked Basics palette from Urban Decay, which has 2 kind of setting shades, or 2 really light shades, one more pink toned and one more yellow toned. So because of that, I think I'm going to veto this out, and I'm going to roll in another shade, which I'm sad about because I really wanted to play with this palette. But let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to veto this out and roll another shade. So let's go ahead and pick another number, and that is going to be number 533. Okay, so 533 is my Makeup Geek eyeshadow in the shade Untamed, which I think is an orangey yellow shade. So I'm going to go ahead and get that, and I will be right back. So I was completely right, and this is the shade right here. It's like an orangey goldy shade, and it is one of their fall eyeshadows. I did already swatch it out, and that is it right there. It does look quite similar to this orange shade, but definitely has more gold to it. It's definitely more yellow in real life. I'm not sure if you can pick it up on camera, but that is my color story. I definitely added some more kind of summer shades. If you take away the top 2, it's definitely more summery again, which I'm happy about. These 2 just kind of throws it off. But yeah, I think I mean, I'm not the happiest with this selection. I definitely couldn't have had better shades, but in general, yeah, I am decently happy with them. And I think these 2 will pair nicely together. This one will pair nicely with either of these 2. Maybe even these 2 will pair nicely together. Maybe even be able to blend the deep green shade out with this blue. And yeah, I think I can work with these shades, and overall they are pretty good summer shades, apart from again these 2 top here, especially this really deep green. But I'm really hoping that I can pan on that in the next month. But yeah, those are the shades. And as always, before I wrap up this video, I'm just gonna go through some of the looks that I did over the past month. So I'm just gonna scoot to the side and put up some of the pictures here. So the first look I have is this one right here, and I really love this look. It's a beautiful one, and it's one that I did quite a lot over the past month. And in this look I am wearing this shade from the Club Nebula palette in Nebula, kind of all over my lid. So that is the start of the show. And I do also believe that I have Smog, which is that deep kind of brownish shade, on my outer corner. And then in my crease I believe I have, is it Raw Sienna possibly from the Modern Renaissance palette, because I was trying to pan that as well. And maybe even Orange Soda from the Soft Glam palette. And that's basically the gist of that look. And I did variations of this look a lot over the past month to try to pan on Nebula. Another way that I use Nebula, which I don't think I have a photo on, is on my lower lash line, but I mainly used it all over my lid as I did in this look. So that is the first one. I really love how this turned out. The second look that I have right here, you can obviously see that I am using the shade, the mint shade, which is called Babyface. I used that all over my lid, and then on my inner half I topped it with a mint shade from the Mint to Be palette. I can't remember which one of those I used, but it's one of the shimmery mints in there. And then for my liner I used one of my Cleona Jewel Multichromes in the shade Gargoyle, which was in my Shop My Stash in the past month. So I used that as a liner to create that kind of yeah, I used winged liner. I just mixed it with some Duraline. And yeah, I really like this look. It was a fun one, and it was like a bit different for me, but it was a good way to use a lot of the babyface shade, and also it was just like quite bright, and yeah, I just enjoyed it overall. Okay, so here is another look, and in this look I am actually wearing Nebula, I believe, on my lower lash line, so you can kind of see what it looks like there. It's not my favorite look with it, but I did use it, like you can see, on my lower lash line a few times. And then on my lid, I believe I am wearing Smog all over my lid, it looks like. It does not look like I'm using Hadia, but I might have been. And then on my inner corner I topped Smog off with more of a golden shade, and then on my inner corner I used more of an iridescent kind of yellow shade, and that is that look. It was one of the variations I did with Smog that was really easy to use for every single day, and yeah, it's just kind of like a basic look. The next look is obviously another one where I use Babyface. I was really trying to focus on this shade because I used it for so many months. But with this look, I used it, as you can see, on the inner half of my lid. And then on the outer half, I used this kind of browny taupey shade that is in my Pan palette, which is again the Naked Basics palette, and that is the shade Faint. And I used that kind of on the outer half of my lid and blended up in my crease. And then on top of my lid, where that green was, I topped it again with a mint shade from the Mint to Be palette. I don't remember which one, but again, is one of the shimmery shades in there. So that is this look here. I really liked it. I like the combination of that taupey brown with that mint green. It's a kind of unexpected combination that I really enjoyed, and I remember, I think I did something similar to this a couple of months back as well when I was still working on Babyface. So this is the next look, and I believe this is the one I talked about when I hit pan on Babyface. And don't mind the crazy hair. I did this look and I filmed, and then I decided to redo my roots a little bit. I wanted to blend just the roots in because they were growing out a little bit. So I just did some tiny highlights, and as you can see, my hair is crazy in this look. But despite that, what I did with this look is I used to use the deep green shade Aisha all over my lid, and then I did it almost all the way in. I left the inner corner blank, and then I used the shade Babyface to blend that out, and it took a lot of blending, but it blended out beautifully. As you can see, it did a really nice transition. And then on my lid I topped that deep foresty green shade with the shade Electric from the Subculture palette, and that was a beautiful combination. I really enjoyed that. It created this beautiful look, and I really need to take a mental note to do that again in the next month, because it created almost this like turquoise shade in the middle, and yeah, it was just beautiful. And obviously you can see in the inner corner, you can just see that shade on its own. And then on my very inner corner I also used like a iridescent golden shade. So yeah, I really enjoyed this look, and it was one of my favorites that I did over the past month. So the next look here is one that I did when I only had 3 shadows left, and that is the 2 that I have left now, plus Nebula, which is the last shade that I hit pan on this month. And basically I used to use the shade, it was a mauve shade, which I think is Labyrinth from the Colourpop Elemental Surprise palette, in my crease. And then I used the shade Smog on my outer corner. On like the rest of my lid I used the shade Nebula, and then as a liner I used a really deep dark green shade Aisha on like as a liner. So that is a look that I did a couple of times and variations of. I did this a lot without using the liner because I just thought the liner didn't quite go with it, made it a bit too deep for me. I liked kind of the light ethereal look of it without the liner, but I did variations of this look towards the end of the month. I used to pan on the Nebula shade, but I really enjoyed this one, and that is actually the last look that I have to share with you. So with that, I am going to wrap up this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And yeah, I really hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye guys!